Hi, we're here in Las Vegas, Nevada at the SPAC show talking to principals involved in the recent Photo Merchant ImageQuix merger. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that means and what it means for the industry for these two leaders to come together at this time. So first, can you introduce yourselves when you tell us about your roles in the company?
Sure, I'm Tim McCain, president of ImageQuix,
Right.
and happy to be here. Thanks.
Elmar Platzer, co-founder and CEO of Photo Merchant.
Yeah.
Was happy to be here, of course.
I could say something. Hey, Derek Clapham, co-founder and CTO of Photo Merchant, and I'm excited to be here.
So first, why don't we just keep the mic down there with Derek and Elmer. Talk a little bit about your company, kind of the technology platform. Those who aren't familiar with the technology platform, where you started, because you're a relatively new company compared to ImageQuix. Then we'll talk a little about the ImageQuix history and how you guys came together.
Sure. So just a very brief amount of context and background. So Elmer and I founded the company in 2008, and it was spelled with a P, not an F, Photo Merchant, a PH. And our focus then was to build a website building and e-commerce platform for wedding and portrait photographers. And we ran that relatively successfully for many years. And in 2016, we came to our first SPAC. So I came along with another one of our long-term employees, and we were just sort of sussing out the high-volume industry. We hadn't really explored it much. And when we saw what we saw, we thought, hey, we really should look at addressing this with our technology platform. And so at that point, the company did a customer segment pivot, and we basically turned all of our attention to the high volume photography industry, but our technology platform was focused solely on e-commerce.
Right.
That was it. No website building, no workflow tools, no capture tools, nothing like that. And we started on e-commerce. And then I got to know Tim a little bit, and we went into partnership with PhotoLinks. Around 2017? Yeah, around 2017, because they had the workflow tools that we didn't have, and were rolling out Plick. Some of you might remember that at the time, and so our technology tied in really nicely with that. And then not long after that, PhotoLinks was acquired by ImageQuix. And Tim gave me a nice courtesy call and let me know. I remember where I was standing. I remember what I'd just eaten. And for Elmer and I, that was a moment that was like, ooh, okay, this could be an issue, because our largest partner has just been acquired by our largest competitor. So that's when we turned our attention to moving beyond e-commerce and basically into workflow, capture, and an end-to-end solution. So our platform is really focused on capture to sale within 2 minutes, sort of thing.
And we want to talk a little bit about the capture piece later on, but why don't we go over to Tim and talk a little bit about kind of that journey, right? The ImageQuix PhotoLinks combination, and then kind of going on a little bit of an acquisition binge in the last year or so.
Yeah, so like Derek had mentioned, we did the merger and went with IQ. It was cool, and we were definitely competitors at that point, but still friendly.
Oh, sure. It's a small industry.
It's a small industry, absolutely. Kept things warm and talked, but knew that they were coming on strong and heavy, and had some really great workflow tools, along with some kick-ass e-commerce stuff.
Right.
So they were a very good competitor. So from there, you were talking about the mergers and acquisition. When we started getting our feet under us, and with our merger with PhotoLinks and IQ, and started finding out it takes some time to get to that point.
You bought Capture Life. You had a few other people.
Absolutely. There were some small tuck-ins that went in that fit right and expanded the TAM for us, but we'd always wanted to go and work with a Photo Merchant, and so yeah, we did a little bit of an acquisition rampage, or whatever you want to call it. We picked up Skylab. We merged with Photo Merchant and Studio Ninja, which is a CRM for the wedding industry.
Yeah, that's one I kind of overlooked, because I didn't hear much about it, and then I saw that was part of like the brands you've acquired. When did that happen?
I think it was probably 6 months ago.
Okay.
July, I think it was.
Yeah.
When it closed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're like a full-featured platform now, almost from wedding, portrait, and volume now.
Absolutely. Those are our three verticals that we're dealing with is high volume, and then we have the tool sets like Skylab and stuff that can tuck in anywhere else, and then the wedding and portraiture stuff. Yeah.
And plus you've got the capture light piece, which
So
is
the
the
experience
event,
economy, absolutely.
and you've got a piece of hardware that dovetails into that. Was that part of the discussion? Because you've got the hardware piece, which maybe you should describe a little bit, and that kind of can feed capture life.
Yeah, it's an ongoing part of the discussion. We're in a lot of discovery right now.
Right.
There's a lot of unknowns, and that's what the whole team's been just going together and trying to figure out the best of everything and where we're going to go, right? The one thing that's important is nobody's getting anything ripped out from underneath them. You know what I mean? If you're working with something, you're doing it right now,
It's
you'll continue to do it.
Yeah, 'cause that is a concern with mergers, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and we're not doing that. And this is a very well thought out approach over the last probably year we've been talking about it, and it's going even deeper now that we're all together and we can really experience each other.
But Photo Merchant is going to stay in Australia.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean that's sort of the piece, because for the near future at least.
No plans of moving.
Yeah, because there's that sort of culture. I mean, that's one of the things I had heard about was people liked working with Photo Merchant because of the culture, right? And not that there's anything wrong with the ImageQuix culture, but it's just different. They're different people.
Well, no matter what, you can't stop the accents and stuff.
No, you certainly cannot. The other thing on that is we do have quite a lot of staff anyway in the US.
Right. Yeah.
So we're pretty distributed. There's a fair few in Australia, but I would say it's about a 50.
It's almost a 50-50 split. So
It's almost a 50-50
We've got staff in
split.
New Zealand and also in Europe as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And did you have the presence in those regions as well? I mean, is that sort of a way where the two companies are complementing each other, the European presence and the
No,
Asia
actually,
Pacific?
that's part of the strategy. Is there's more of a European presence there. We did little stuff with books in Australia.
Right.
But it was, I mean, that was their home base. So as
Right.
far as competing with them, they could just run over and we couldn't. So
Right.
yeah, but now no, it's,
so there's a geographic advantage here. for
absolutely,
this.
and it's truly a worldwide company right now, which is amazing. It's
Right.
amazing.
And I
From
think-
where it started, Tim. Right?
Yeah.
From where it started.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing where we've gone.
Just to add to that.
Sure.
The biggest challenge, I think, for any technology company, if you're going to go global, is that you no longer are just thinking about what it is you do. You have to now think about currency and tax, and there's so much of that. And because we've been at the very least a dual or tri-country product, we had to think about that really, really early on in our technology development. So we're multilingual, multi-currency, multi-region already, just by nature of being an Australian company. If we had only done business in Australia, we can only grow so much.
Right.
We have 26 million people, 5 million children in school,
Right.
and that's it, right? The US is that times 15, roughly, and then Canada is probably double Australia, and then Europe is just like the US. So we were already poised for that, and I think as Blueprint and ImageQuix has grown, and PhotoLinks and those things pretty much captured a huge percentage of the US market and Canadian market. So we bring some of that to the table, just because we've had to. We didn't really have a choice.
Right.
Yeah.
If you were going to do this, you had to be all of those things.
Yeah.
Just adding further to that, so we already had a global mindset from the get-go.
Right.
And we were looking at expanding. Our next market would have been the European market, but obviously that requires resources, and we didn't want to be spread too thinly as well either.
Right.
So we were looking at capital raising, and for a number of reasons we decided that was not a good option for us at that point.
Right.
And the next obvious step for us was to partner with someone. who
Yeah,
had
because
the
I mean, from a
resources
macro
and-
standpoint, the way the world economy is, it's not a great time to borrow money.
No, look, what we actually found is we were looking to raise capital, but you've got two options: private equity and VC. And private equity, the minimum check size these days is so large that would have been highly dilutive for us. And then if you want to raise less than that, you need to go down to VC markets.
Right.
But you're hitching your wagon to a horse that you don't necessarily want to be hitched to either,
Right.
because they have a different set of expectations.
Sure.
So when we evaluated that, we thought, it'll be good to partner with someone with the resources. We've
Right.
got expanded team resources,
Mhm.
so we can actually make good on our vision, which is a shared vision that we have.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you've recently had a new investment partner, right?
Right, correct.
Was that part of the dialogue you had with them, getting them aboard, saying, "Hey, we have this opportunity"? Did it go that far back? Because when did the Charles Bank thing happen?
The Charles Bank thing happened 13 months ago.
Okay.
And that was part of the talks at the beginning. We, when you're doing all that, you have to put together a deal theory and where there was white space and where they can make money, right?
Right, exactly.
And so, that was absolutely part of the discussion. And there's a targeted list of people that you would hope to do business with and partner up in the future, and they absolutely were on it.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay. So going forward, you've got like a hodgepodge of identities, if you will. Blueprint, links, ImageQuix,
Sure.
photo merchant, capture, all the various things. How are you going? Is there a plan to bring all that together, or is it like it's working great the way it is now, so let's not mess with it? Success.
So as far as the marketing side of that and branding and all that, James and Ann and they're doing a wonderful job, and it's going to be a one brand eventually,
Right.
with different facets, and there's a whole
Yeah. There's.
big old theory about how to do all that, right? It's a
Yeah.
big job,
Yeah.
and they're tackling that right now. And then as far as the tech, we've already talked about the tech and what we're planning on doing. Nothing is going. You're not going to get. You're not going to log on to X company. You're still going to go through Photo Merchant right now if you're doing Photo Merchant. You're still going through ImageQuix if you're doing ImageQuix right now. Eventually, it will be one brand.
And one
Big-
platform.
And one platform.
Yeah.
One brand, one platform. Big job for both of those.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen any kind of quick.
No, it can't. I mean, even if we sat and said, "Hey, let's do this right now," right now would be as fast as we're going to be able to go.
Exactly. So I'm not going to ask about the timetable.
Yeah, no, there is. We're
Too early.
too into. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're not sure right
there's
now.
no point in asking for a timetable. So when we're back here next year,
Yeah.
there may be no visible progress, but that may not be a bad thing.
Yeah, well, weul tell you where we're at next year.
Yeah,
When we're
yeah.
back here for sure.
Yeah.
Can you tell some of the people out there that we can't give a timetable? We can't give a timetable. Not yet.
Well, because you have an ongoing business. That's the
Absolutely.
challenge.
So, and we'll be running that ongoing business the same way it goes. If it's shut down, this would be a bad move.
Right. Yeah.
And we're going to
Exactly.
keep everything going
Exactly.
and keep everybody happy and content, and work towards our ultimate goal, which we're all excited about. And the biggest thing is that we're all going at this holistically with egos drop, pride drop. There's no pride of ownership. We're trying to do what's best for the industry right now and best for us collectively, which is a neat way to go about it.
And just on the branding, we can give people a hint. So the new brand name will be based on the first letter of every current brand. So we'll take the P from PhotoLinks, the S from Skylab, the F from Photo Merchant, the I from ImageQuix, and the S from Studio Ninja.
And that's why Derek is not in
And
marketing.
find a way to jumble it, and that will be the new brand.
Way to jumble it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any vowels.
James
in
is
there,
having a coronary over there. You know that. So let's talk a little bit about the industry piece of it, because there's this side of it, right, which is, consolidation happens in markets, right? Creates opportunities for other people and other, but you've got also just in the customer base, there's a crazy amount of disruption happening there with major players struggling. There's, that's not a secret. And new people getting into the business as potential customers and opportunities. So talk a little bit just about what's happening in the industry where, if you're looking at someone with private equity, people's like, this might be a great place for them to put some money into.
Yeah, we noticed, because we've been in the market sort of over the last year or two, that there seems, and Tim, I think you've probably seen the same thing, but the private equity sector does seem to be interested in the photography industry in general at the moment. That isn't always the case.
Right.
But it is at the moment, and I think it extends beyond technology companies in the industry. It extends to other styles of business as well.
Sure.
And I think we'll probably continue to see more of that. In terms of the industry and the struggling studios, I think everyone saw a big bump during and after COVID.
Right.
I think there's a degree at a macro level of we're coming down off that bump, and it almost feels like a slope downwards, but it's more of just a shallow correction. Well, that's my take on it.
I agree with it 100%.
Yeah, and so studios that have scaled up are now potentially having to think about scaling down a little bit, but the net result for them is still growth over the last 4 years.
Right.
For the guys like us in e-commerce, we saw just a huge shift away from paper.
Yeah.
Which was why I think you're also seeing companies like ImageQuix that are acquiring, because there was a few years of extreme profitability because of the movement
That's exactly right.
to e-commerce. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else wants to.
I would like to just address, he hit it on the head. And also with having 12 or 1,300 people out there right now at SPAC, which is the biggest SPAC I've ever been to, like I think that there's also an influx right now of people coming into the industry as well, which is good. And the money coming into the industry from private equity is good as well. Like it's exciting for us. Everybody should be excited to be in the industry right now.
Yeah, well, that's part of the thing is, I mean, some people get concerned about that because they think, private equity is, they may have a viewpoint on that, whether they, they just go in, take companies over, cannibalize them, and cut people, and and then resell them. But it doesn't look like the people who are getting involved in at least in the photography segment are having that idea, because I think kind of at a macro level, those people are looking for solid investments. They're looking for industries that are profitable, recurring revenue. Maybe not crazy growth, but if you look at the global economy, profits are a good thing right now.
Yeah.
So if you're investing in green technology or electronic batteries or whatever, you may not see a payoff on that for years. Whereas if you're investing in something like a relatively mature industry like photography, especially volume photography, where there's a lot of opportunity, it could be a good investment.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about one more thing that's kind of come up as sort of the topic of the show is like AI, right? AI, how is it affecting, the industry? How are you guys looking at it? You don't have, I know on the capture side you might have some technology that might play place there, but that seems like the talk of the job. We're trying to figure out how is AI going to influence services. So from your standpoint, how is it going to affect your business going forward?
Well, we bought Skylab for a reason.
Right, exactly.
So we believe in the AI stuff. I would say educate yourself on it, not you personally, but whoever's listening, educate yourself on AI and what it can be used for. You see the fear-mongering stuff that pops up and says this mom was mad because you touched this kid's image without. We're doing it in a very structured, complete way. It's not anything different than what we've always done. And it's like in the way our group photos. They used to take kids with hands out and retouch them and put different heads on different, like fixing things. We're just doing it automated now.
Right.
So we're doing it in a very nice structured way, but we believe in AI. We just invest a lot of money into AI.
Just adding something to it. I'll talk about the technology because
that's your forte.
No, just generally on the AI, I think what we'll see is we see a huge influx. We see a mushrooming of AI companies popping up.
You said it again, mushrooming of AI.
Mushrooming of it's actually difficult, believe it or not, for an Austrian. Remember, I'm not Australian. No, but I think we see a huge influx of new market entrants into the space.
Yeah.
We will also see at some point this will become commoditized as well.
Sure.
But you'd be crazy not to leverage AI because it's a productivity multiplier, and you just really need to. But I think we're still very early days, especially in our industry.
Yeah.
So.
I've answered the same question 16 years ago on e-commerce.
Right.
We're seeing an influx of e-commerce. What do you think about that? I mean, people are going to lose jobs and so on and so forth, and paper's reliable, and what happens if my credit card number gets stolen? And these are really big issues to consider. And because we're so early on in the widespread adoption of AI and the fear-mongering that Tim was talking about, in the photography industry, we're not using artificial intelligence to try and gather as much information about people for any other use other than to be smart at doing the productive things, you know, like retouching images, removing braces, whatever it might be.
Right.
But it's so untested, like the boundaries of it technology-wise are huge, like they're almost boundless, but the legalities of it are still untested, right? If you look at e-commerce 20 years ago, it was like the Wild West.
Right.
You look at e-commerce now and the laws and the regulations and all of that. I think that's what we haven't seen yet with artificial intelligence.
Well, the big thing is generative
Yeah.
AI versus the AI tool sets.
Yes.
that
Right.
we're
Two
talking
very
about.
different things.
Two very different things, and people get them confused,
Yeah.
and they think that we're going to make your kid a cartoon character or something without your consent, or we're going to do whatever, and that's just ridiculous. We're doing tool sets, color correction, cropping, you know, stuff like
Glass
that.
glare.
Glass glare, knockouts, you know, and if a mom wants braces removal or something like that, and she pays for it, then there's the consent, right?
Right.
So it's not a generative AI.
Right. So, but I think if you're looking at what's happening just from an employment standpoint, right, people being able to find employees to work in labs, it's this sort of thing that's going to keep photographers, volume photographers, and studios competitive, as they have access to these tools.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas, you know, nowadays it's harder to find somebody.
There's also still somebody to, like, people think, like you were just talking about the e-commerce thing and how many jobs are going to be like. You take that, there's somebody that has to oversee all that.
Right.
There's somebody that has to look at that AI. There, you know, even Chat GPT, it's a start
Right.
to something. You don't let
Absolutely.
them write your paper, but you let them give you a couple ideas. It's
Right.
the same thing with this, and there's somebody has to look at that right
Right.
now, and somebody has to manage that.
Exactly. Cool. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time, guys. It's been a great conversation. Looking forward to hearing more news, and thank you so much.
Right.
Thanks,
Thank
Gareth.
you.
Thanks, Gareth.
Appreciate it.